We have enjoyed.
Unknown P is in the building.
Wagwan.
He's actually come out. You are popping right now.
Yeah, obviously it was a sort of little bit tricky to get here. You sort of North Wembley in a business park. If this was an episode of Luther, I would have been murdered by now.
How did you get here?
I sort of got anyway. I just had to call up Jeeves, bark out the Royce, and then they sort of took the fast lane over to Wembley. Yeah, I thought I might have seen David Beckenham.
Did you get stuck in any traffic though? No,
because sort of we had the all blacked out windows. So a couple of times the police tried to pull man over, but sort of just rolled down the window, slipped him a 50 quid note, and then that was it really.
Obviously, I've heard about your endeavours at GRM Daily too. So how was that? How was that experience?
Well, Tariq, I'm glad you've asked. So it's me and the boys at GRM Daily, we get on like a house on fire. We sort of once we're there, the creative juices just start flowing. Speaking of creative juices, you sort of get the joint of sort of beef in the oven, and you sort of marinate it, and the juices being sort of circulating around the joint of meat. That's the sort of creativity that goes on between us.
Really?
Yes. Do you have roast dinners in your sort of community?
Yeah, actually, we give them up.
Sure.
On a Sunday.
We have barbecues.
Barbecues.
Yeah, barbecues.
I want to have a question.
Is that in Mexico?
No, I want to have a question.
Spilling his water all over the place. Like
see what you've done to us. No, but on a serious note, with your roast dinner, do you or do you not have rice?
So obviously, it depends sort of which leg of my family I'm with.
Okay.
We do have some Caribbean neighbours who sort of will introduce the rice and peas. Just depends on whether the garden peas are ready for the meal, because obviously at this time of the year, very cold conditions, a lot of the time we don't have the peas on demand, and so therefore without the rice you can't have the peas. So in short answer, no.
No? Oh, boring.
In the day of unknown P,
I know.
What do you get up to, man?
Yeah.
I'm starstruck right now, so I really want to know.
So usually sort of fumble out of bed around 10 a.m. and it's rather lazy, but beforehand sometimes the paper gets brought into me, have a fresh glass of orange juice, and then sort of around 10 I might go for a brisk walk through the countryside, and then usually at about 12 we do some clay pigeon shooting. Well, you've got to practice somewhere to take down the ops, you know what I mean?
Some of the ladies want to know if Unknown P is single.
This is the question. This is the question.
Sure. Can you translate Spanish, or is that within your job description?
Possibly.
Que amo esta? No, joking. Are you single?
So
you have a girl?
No. Well, the question. Well,
are you fascinated?
It's a good question. It is a good question. So, I did have a ting.
A ting, okay.
Well, I had a couple of tings and a couple of boroughs, actually. Mildred was the most recent, down by Liverpool
Big
Street.
Up Mildred?
Well, no, let's not big her up. Actually, she was sort of, yeah.
Really?
But no, at the moment, no. Unknown P, sort of very single Pringle.
Oh, okay. So talk to us then. What's your type? Aye.
So obviously, now this might sound rather strange, but if you're going to be my ting, you sort of need to have a rich father, because that sort of, I like to have a rather strong lineage within the family, not just sort of genetic wise, but actually cachetic wise. It's all about how long can we keep the dream of mine would be to sort of restart an empire of some sort, like a drilly British empire, where we sort of go across the world, sort of spreading drills to each and every continent. Mexico might be part of that. So that would be the dream. I'm looking for someone with sort of long, voluptuous hair, maybe not afraid to wear a whalebone corset on a night out, and sort of a classic Victorian lady, but in a sort of 2019 setting.
Okay, well,
I don't think either of you would qualify, but it's keep trying, something to work towards.
As soon as you said Rich Daddy, I looked away. Sure. I wanted to ask her, Unknown Pete. Our listeners want to know: are you related to Ashton from JLS?
Was that you? Good one.
Okay, so I'm assuming JLS. What does that stand for?
Do you remember the boy band on X Factor like years ago? Yes.
Would sort of paint me the picture. What do they look like?
Well, they're all.
You have to give you a picture so you can.
Black or mixed race descent. I think.
Sure.
Have you ever watched X Factor?
Average height.
No, I don't hate myself, Taryn. To be fair, look, I've got a couple of sisters. I don't have any brothers, so very, very unlikely to be related to this Ashton. But I wish him all the best with his little sort of sing and dance act. Are they still together?
Are they? No, they're not. They're not. And I don't know if they're getting back together, but that's a whole other story. We're here to talk about you, though. So,
course,
are we going to hear any music anytime soon?
Oh gosh, yeah, there we go.
Well, it's a question on everyone's lips, isn't it? Even the bodyguard at the door singing about it at the moment.
That is.
I won't lie. I've sort of been having a little vacay at the moment. I've sort of been on vacation, having a little think about life. And I will say this. I shall be a little bit cryptic in saying this. Last year, I think some people very foolishly considered me to be some sort of joke rapper.
Oh, really?
Which is absolutely not the case. I'm a serious drill rapper.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the bully and the strap in respective pockets, and I'm not afraid to whip them out. Well, various ballets actually, Lucia.
What is your favourite?
Lucia. Who's Lucia? You just called someone Lucia. Yeah.
Sorry, you're digressing me. So, I would like this year to go on a journey to be considered as a real artist.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to visit a studio. I want to spend time with already established drill groups. I want to do a bit of Afro swing, whatever it takes to sort of put myself on the map. And so that is what my plans are. It may take the form of some sort of series. It depends which producers and directors hit me up first.
I wanted to ask too.
Can I just ask before you ask? Sorry, because you touched on Afro swing, but can you shaku though?
Can I shark who?
Shaku, Gunley,
Shaku. Can you shaku on the beat?
Well, I'm assuming it's some sort of dance move. Mm-hmm. Well, yes, then of course. I spent a little bit of time in Nairobi doing some sort of missionary work out there, and there were sort of occasions where the children would bring up the marimbas and start batting away on them. And yes, I did see some of their dance moves, and to my sort of recollection, I could probably pull some of them off.
Okay, shit then. Go on, Ty.
I forgot my question because I can't.
What do you do in your spare time?
In my spare time,
what is your favourite hobby?
Favourite hobby is sort of, I do enjoy a little bit of pottery. Obviously you start off with a massive lump of clay and then sort of run your hands along its shape until you end up with sort of, I love sort of the exchange of sort of unique Egyptian vases. Yeah. So obviously I'm sort of looking to the highest bidder, and we'll occasionally sort of go out there, tour around the museums, the Tate, the Science Museum, the V&A. Have you ever been to a museum, either of you? Too busy sort of graffitiing on walls, I'd imagine.
No, I love museums.
Sure.
Or have you I've been to the Design Museum in West London, have you?
Sure, and is that where you picked up those ginormous hoop earrings for your respective children to hula hoop with you?
£2.50 in Primark. Check it out.
I had to ask you too, the condition of your opposition, your ops as you call them. I need to, because obviously you talk about them a lot, but I want to know potentially where they're from, or I don't know, you feel a bit you seem a bit uncomfortable talking about your ops right now. I don't know.
The thing is, Tyrese, what I've sort of discovered through my various years is that an opposition doesn't just present himself to you with fists raised.
Yeah.
An opposition can be anywhere at any time.
Yeah.
This Mexican's been staring at me across the table for the last hour. I'm sure he has every intention to shunk me as soon as I walk out of the place, unless this bloody bodyguard follows me at the door. So an op can present itself in any shape and form. Everyone is an op unless proven otherwise, even you two.
I'm not an op.
We're girls.
And so it is my job, realistically, as the UK's #1 drill artist, to protect not only my reputation but my musical empire by being ready at all times. I might seem sort of soft and nuggety in the centre, but actually there's a hard outer shell, and that's there for a reason.
And when you're not ready, what would you do?
What sort of a question is that? The grammatical arrangement's all wrong.
Okay, so they've come right behind you now. So imagine, they've come right behind you. They're like, oh, I really like his jacket.
Sure.
And you can hear the footsteps. Now you turn around. What would you do?
Bugger off, opposition!
Damn!
That's
Bugger off, opposition.
Think of it sort of like an on-demand car
Does
alarm.
that work? What happens after that, usually?
Oh, they run in fear with their tails between their legs. Yes.
Right. So we've been privileged with Unknown P in the building. Honestly, we have been privileged.
Where are we going to find you next, Unknown P? What's next?
So I'd sort of say, keep your eyes and ears peeled on sort of. So you've heard of Munya Chihuahua?
Oh yeah.
Good friend of mine, sort of semi-manager. So we've been making some sort of plans for sort of maybe this, maybe next month. Might sort of pop along. But yes, more music on the way, and also a life story. I think.
Yeah.
A life story. Hopefully this year.
Hey,
amazing. Let's give a clap for Unknown P out here. Big up Unknown P, and big up Munya too. I see him do stuff.
He's putting up gang signs to us.
Most definitely.